Yo, what's up, everybody? This is me, your Monstrosity Sex, back here again, trying to fill out the ending of this review with this book. And this is sort of a plug for my book, as well as trying to uh, help Eric July square up with what he's done with this story. Because if he's telling stories like this in this book, the three other books that he's got coming out, the second book and the two other groups that or characters or whatever that he's coming out with the books, he's gonna need to fucking take a quick. But I know that he's got Chuck Dixon coming in, so one of those books he's not gonna have to worry. But if he's writing the second book and one of the other books, he's gonna have problems. If he's got Chuck Dixon writing them, then he ain't got no problem. Get Chuck Dixon to give you some motherfucking pointers because your shit is off, homie. It is. You basically rushed it, and your inexperience allowed you to skip over the flaws. So read your shit. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself what, where, why, who, all of these shits. Why is this person doing this? Why do I think that this is okay? So, how I would handle this. I would have told, I should have been suspicious when you didn't want to tell that much about the story. Because it's either two things. It's either that good or it's that bad. So, and that's what, you see happening in Disney and Amazon with the Rings of Power and all of that vague bullshit that they came out with to push to as a trailer or as an advertisement, and then they didn't fucking tell you nothing. And then when you get in there, you got what you deserve. So what I would have done, my story, I started out telling everybody, this is Mike's origin. Mike came into existence back in the 60s. A meteorite crashes the earth. This viscous material seeps out and starts mutating and fucking up everything. And if they didn't stop it, the possibility existed that it would take over the entire earth. Fire, they used all kinds of stuff, chemicals, everything on it, and nothing was affecting it. And what happens is that a lot of first responders got taken out. Police, military, firemen, all of these different people and superheroes were getting taken out by the substance. And they in the 40s, after the atomic era, there was in the 50s there was another era where with alpha particles or God particles. They use these particles. They also witnessed that the population was having a growth in people naturally occurring powers, which I call NGen, capital N, capital Gen, meaning neogenetic, meaning new genetics, or uh, next generational humans. So that's what I call my mutants, or my, even though it's not the same, because DC, they have, no, Marvel has Homo Superior and mutants, but DC has, what's his face? Whatever their class is. From what I understand, they was all changed by some experiment that mostly everybody got their powers from some experiment that went haywire. And well, I don't know if that's how it went in the comic books or if that's just from the TV DCEU that this explosion happened which gave everybody their abilities. I'm not really that much of a DC fan. I'm mostly a Marvel dude. Even though I got a lot of DC comics, I don't really understand how the universe works. As far as the abilities, how they first got a lot of their abilities. Like the Flash and stuff like that. I thought that was an experiment. In the experiment, yeah, I thought that was an experiment. So I don't really understand. But anyway, they have the not Homo Superior. They have I'll figure it out. It'll come to me sometime down the line, and I'm gonna blurt it right out. So anyway, in my Might book, these characters, the military or the government, seen that the neogenetics, they were coming up, they were getting stronger gradually over time, and that characters back in the day, they could wield power. Say they could create fire, but it would just be in the palm of their hand. It wouldn't be on the tip of their fingers. It wouldn't be something that they can shoot across a building and burn up the whole building, or throw things across the way and blow things, burn things up. It was minor, very weak powered stuff. You could be able to set a fire, but it would, you set a tissue on fire, light a match, light a cigarette, some shit like that. And that's basically how abilities went. But as in the 50s, they saw that this was getting more, these characters were coming more strong, so they wanted to use God particles to help make characters of their own that they could control. But they had the same problem. If you give these people abilities, how do you control them? So they created it, and they thought it was 80% viable, the experiment. And so they mothballed it. They say, we don't want to start giving out abilities that we can't control. And this meteor strikes in the 60s. Now, this is, remember, 40s to the 50s, where they found the God particles and they made this experiment. Then in the 60s, the early 60s, this meteorite crashes to the planet. This viscous material spreading across, mutating and killing all types of shit. And they need more superheroes, so they pull this experiment out of mothballs, create some more superheroes, send them in, and they immediately realize, hey, yo, we just gonna wind up throwing a bunch of superheroes away. Let's not do that. Let's figure this shit out before we go headlong into it and just start feeding this thing more superheroes. So they create more superheroes, and that's where Mike comes in. And they create two groups, and they two platoons or whatever it is, and and they start trying to scheme on how to figuring out how to fucking. They wind up coming up with an idea from this doctor, and they implement it, and they wind up rendering this substance inert, so inactive, whatever you want to call it. So they take all of this stuff off of it, scoop it up, even part of the earth, some of the earth, because this stuff was mutating shit. So they dig up millions of tons of this shit, and they ship it into space. They put it in, they create it, they put it into barrels and all types of shit, and the major countries of the world, they all come together and decide they're going to build a space station where they can, because they don't want to ship, just blast this shit into the sun or blast this shit randomly out into space, because they don't know the ramifications. So what they do is build a space station, and they want to put this shit on this massive space station where they can do all their experimentation. And being that these other governments contributed to the building of the space station, they get to participate in the testing of the substance, and every once in a while they brings the substance down to Earth for labs on Earth, different labs, governments and stuff like that, for them to get a little sample and test it and see what they can do with it, and then whatever they do, they send it back. Well, in modern era, when my story starts, see, this is where you need to know some backstory, because when my story starts, this is in our time. It's not the 50s or 60s or none of that. It's modern day, and this group, who's known for destabilizing small countries, committing assassinations, all kinds of crazy, devious shit. They're out of New York, and they're coming to Portsburg, where my character is stationed, uh, to to create problems. They let it be known that they're coming over the dark web or the dark net or whatever, and in that they basically have Mike preparing for them. So he brings in 3 guest stars, which is my Nebula character. He's going to be my outer space dude who's going to get his own book in the second campaign. There's going to be 4 books in the second campaign. Might, Everman, Cameo, and my Nebula character, which is going to be my outer space. I guess you can say, in order to make it easier, they're nothing like Green Lantern. They're not intergalactic police, nothing like that. But they do work in the outer space. So you're gonna. This is my creating the story made me wish that I created my Nebula character story first, and then I base everything on it so that I could draw it. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to draw that story, and I really wish I could. I don't believe in a lot of the astrological shit that you hear from scientists. I think they're full of shit. But the stories that they tell and all of that shit that comes out of those outer space stories, I love. I utterly love it ever since I was a kid. That and nature shit. So because of that, I'm fully immersed in this outer space story. So those 4 stories. So those 3 characters are guest stars. He brings them in to help set it because they have to set. He doesn't know what's gonna happen. He just knows that these dudes are good, and he doesn't want to leave anything to chance. So he brings in 3 strong dudes. Remember, Mike has a complex about working with people who are weaker, and because they are more prone to death. So that's another reason why he brings in these guys, because they're strong, and he got a couple of strong dudes on the team that he works with regularly, and the rest of them he really kind of don't really want a lot to do with because they're considered weaker characters. And but they have something about them that made them raise them up from low-level characters to these more elite characters, or working in this elite group, sort of a Justice League, but it's not. So anyway, I have a rival bad guy. I have a Lex Luthor type character, but I have 3 cities that I'm working with in my story, and one of these cities has a rival corporation that's coming up. He's an up and comer, and he's putting kind of the screws to my Lex Luthor type character. He's not exactly Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor is a lot more shrewd, and my character, he's more like out there in the public eye all of the time and trying to be public and loved by everybody, always tweeting and all of this type of shit. So he's a little bit not as that stoic type of evil doer type dude. He starts trying to get into evil, but he's not really an evil dude to start out with. But anyway, his rival that rivalry builds my stories as far as giving me something to go, somewhere to go in the future as far as my bad guy goes, especially that Lex Luthor guy, because I got a bunch of different bad guys. So and when the story opens up, these guys say they're coming on a particular day, and he sets up for it, and then when everything starts jumping off, uh, our Diamond District gets attacked, and they get ready to head out. And then right at that very moment, the my Silicon Valley in Portsburg gets attacked. So they have to split up, and that, of course, is intentional. And they realize that it's a setup, it's a trap. So they split up, and they leave a certain amount of people in the fucking headquarters because they got a vault there with some particular stuff, and they don't want people, they don't know what their game is, so they have to take these precautions, and they split up into basically 3 groups. One goes to the Diamond District, one goes to the Silicon Valley District, and one stays at headquarters so that they can protect shit. And they're there, and this big fight jumps off, and while they're fighting, shit happens, and then they escape, and they realize that this whole thing has been set up, and then people from the government show up, and they let might know that something else happened. There was a third attack, and one of these samples of the substance was stolen. And that's where the story starts. That's where my story starts, and it just goes from there. And you can see that there's stuff. And then I let people know that there's this Illuminati group that's trying. There are Illuminati groups warring for the dominance of the planet. So you got all of these things that people are looking forward to. No matter what I do in my story, there's gonna be stuff that people are looking forward to. Yo, what's happening with that Illuminati? And there's going to be really short 2 to 4 page snippets of these other groups or the characters or stories that I'm telling. Because I got a story you're going to witness in the pages of Mike. You're going to witness the origin of Cube to the second power. You're going to witness the origin of Mega. And you're going to witness a bad guy come into his being. I can't tell you who it is, but he works in the Lex Luthor digital division or tech division. And he works in the tech division with the Cube guy, the Cube to the second power. So their kind of shit kind of lines up. So that, and being that it's attached to the bad guy, it kind of joins their story within my story. The problem I got is my Mega story. There's nothing really holding that storyline to my Mike storyline, and that frightens me that I might be distracting people and taking them out of the story, telling that storyline. But down the line, things come together, and that's where I'm trying to hold on to the story. Is just getting to that point to where people don't check out because I'm slowing down the main story in order to tell that story. I'm hoping I'm not what I'm doing, but according to this book, I can do that and get away with it because you got characters in here that totally throw this book off. So, and then with my story, like I said, that's where my story starts. So it's going to be about him finding out who these New York dudes are that came into Portsburg, what they stole, how they stole it, what they done with it, and all of that stuff. And so that's basically the main plot line, along with my two side storylines. And that's it. But in there is going to be a lot of action. They're going to be chasing behind these dudes. They're going to be always on their trail, trying to keep with them, and sometimes failing, and sometimes they find something or they catch somebody, and so there's always going to be something driving that storyline forward. It's not going to be the whole well, you can't know about this, and I'm not telling you about that. No, I'm going to let you know what's happening, but I got that shit staged out so that when you get past this level, there's something else that you have to find out. When you get to this point, there's something else that you might have to find out. Oh, you only cracked this little corner of the problem. There's some other shit that's going on that you have to find out about. So there's always going to be something leading you to, hey, what's going on? Hold on, I didn't find out about this. You gotta find out in the next book, or there's gonna be real cliffhangers. You didn't have no cliffhangers. You didn't tell anybody anything. There's nothing happening with the bad guy that leads me to expect that there's something major coming down the pike. So I don't care about him. And because your bad guy is weak, your good guy is weak. Because your bad guy's strength makes your good guy strong. And even stronger. So, how I would change your story is I would do basically that. I would make Darren Fontano a big wig. He's got to have multiple businesses. He's got to be taking over other smaller companies or smaller. He could be getting into that, getting into company takeovers. But for now, he's into crime and taking over and consolidating his power on the street and his influence. And he's got another company, this whole Merc club. That's his company, but he's not there. He got some other lower boss working that, and that's who Isom should have been fucking with and working his way up a ladder. There's no ladder climbing in your book. It's just Fontano, and it's just revenge against Santuan, which is a nothing story. It doesn't lead you anywhere. So there's nothing to say that's going to happen after he's finished with Santuan or Darren Fontano. There's nothing there. I don't see anything because there's no meat on your bones. There's no meat on the bones that says Darren is this big shot that's making moves, and I want to understand the moves that he's making, and you're showing me this amount of moves, but his ultimate goal you're hiding. You're not showing me that. That's how it's supposed to go. You let little bits of information out, a little bit, but the main plot lines, you keep that hidden until you want to reveal that, and then that only reveals some other reveal that leads you have to keep searching for something else. And that's how I'm trying to set my shit up. And there's nothing in here like that. I would have like this. The girl who goes missing is working undercover. She's working with the police and the ultra alpha corps because Santuan has been hiring a lot of accepts, and he's doing shit. Things have been happening. There's been thefts of vital shit. Maybe some tech shit that got stolen that they needed to implement their plan for some kind of hostile takeover, or something that they stole that works in cooperation with some other shit that they need to steal so that they can set their main plan into action. Then you got something that's already been stolen that the police are already looking for. They know Darren Fontano's dirty, and they can't find anything on it because he's smart, and they can't just run in to his businesses and start searching. So what they do is they get her, who's already inside working because she's under some kind of distress because of something, whatever made her leave to work for him in the first place. It's the same shit. It's just that the cops got to her. They're using her as an informant. She leads them to something that makes them want to raid the place. Avery gets there before this raid. He's trying to find out what's going on. They get into some major. They're starting to get into some major row, or maybe the fighting already starts. Maybe he kicks a bunch of their butts and he says, "Yo, chill out. I'm just trying to find out what happened to this girl. Let me know what's going on, whether it's bad or good or whatever. I just want to let her parents know what's going on. It doesn't have to be all of this. I don't have to fuck up all you and your people." But there would be these accepts there that would be fighting him, which makes the battle way more interesting because then there's higher risks. So the Alpha Corps attack. The cops bust in. The Alpha Corps is right behind them. The accepts attack the Alpha Corps. Alpha Corps and Yaira, maybe they're working together because I don't know the relationship. All I know is that Yaira and Alpha Corps is at odds, so that's the only reason why I wouldn't have them working together, because I do not understand what's going on between them. But otherwise, I would have Yaira, being that there's 3-4 of them, Yaira and the Alpha Corps attack, and then Darren Fontano, he got about 4 or 5 accepts, so that the Alpha Corps and Yaira are kind of occupied. Meanwhile, the regular bad guys that Darren got are fighting the police. Then they got guns shooting. They got you talking about all kinds of action. This is all kinds of action, all kinds of intrigue, all kinds of involvement. And you still don't know what his plans are. You don't know what he's doing. You don't know what he's up to. You don't know what kind of plans that he's put in enacted, and they're there to because they heard some fighting or some screaming or some shooting or whatever, and so they raided. That gave them the information that they needed to raid, because the girl was in there trying to find information on something that can lead them to the shit that they already stole and towards the shit that they're planning. So they was gonna break in as soon as she gave the word that they found something vital. But because of the shooting and everything started, they jumped in early and made that shit. And you could handle that however you wanted. That they get reprimanded, that the charges would have to be dropped because of how they invaded or escalated things, or maybe that they all got arrested. Darren says, Avery, I'm coming to get you. You fucked up my shit. You fucking have got the police in here on me. I'm coming to fucking get you. You don't have to worry about that shit. And this all has shit pointing you forward. Everybody reading this shit is going to be like, wow, what's going to happen next? How is this going to fucking come out? So now he's got to get even with him. He could go after his sister. He could go after his daughter, the niece. But then he still got his plans he needs to enact. Do they find something on the premises? You could handle that. That's up to you. I'm just trying to put out a storyline that works a whole lot better than what you've given us in here. So, the story keeps moving from there forward. You could cut it off and put it to the next book anytime in this, depending on how you fill up this. That's 96 pages with this new story. That these guys are in there developing this shit, trying to take over. They're forcing the Yakuza or the Asian gangs to bow down to them. They're forcing the mafia to bow down and get on board. They're forcing all of this stuff can still be working in the background while Fontano's in prison trying to get his lawyers to get him out and all of this shit like that, dog. The excerpts could say that they was hired to protect them. They didn't know who y'all was. Y'all attacked. So, and they could get out because they was hired. Or they could be in prison and he could get them out on the same trumped up charges. You could have something go out to get them out. A good lawyer that can get them out and keep the story moving forward. And then they would have to be more secretive. And then you would see them working on their plans or have something going on that you can attribute to their group, the Fontano and his people, but it not necessarily has to be them. In other words, you can keep it mysterious. This is how you keep things mysterious and vague, so that you don't have to tell everything. This is how I would handle it. And so then, anywhere in there, you can drag this story forward and tell it how you want to tell it. I'm not going to try and tell the whole thing from beginning to end of the first book, but this is the plot lines that I'm talking about having in there so that the story moves forward and has excitement and has intrigue, has people wanting to read on, even though some of the guys who said they read this, they wanted to keep reading it, that it was gripping. I didn't find it gripping. I found it very off-putting. So, yeah, this is what I would have done with your story. I would make Darren Fontano way more powerful, way more influential, show that he's doing stuff that's taking over shit, show his reach, show that he has the police in the pocket, or he has the mayor in pocket, the police commissioner in pocket, something to show his reach, show that he's got power and control, and then from there, it's all about building on what you've already established, that these characters are working to consolidate his power so that he can take over the city or run something. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to have to tell everything or make up everything because I got my own stories. I got 4 characters that I'm telling that I have fully realized storylines that I'm working on. My Nebula character has to do with taking out things in the space that's attacking things that it has no business attacking and doing things that it has. But I'm going to talk about that story in my launch, because I'm going to introduce all of these a year or at least before their books come out. You're going to know about these characters. So with Mike, you're going to know with Cameo, you're going to know that her involvement has to do with something to do with some off-worldly thing that comes to Earth, and basically it's her job to try and wipe out this thing that's on Earth trying to spread. And then Everman, he's about these powerful beings who don't like man and wants to wipe them out because of man's arrogance. And they wind up getting into a war with each other, these powerful beings, because they say that we have no right to interfere. And so the powerful beings agree not to fight one another, and so what they do is the group that wants to take out man, they start imbuing man or bad men with abilities so that they can engage and do things that cause the downfall of man. And then the bad guys say, well, the good guy side of these superior beings, they say, nah, well, we're not going to stand by and just let y'all keep doing that. So they start creating characters and imbuing characters with power so that they can offset the evil that's being created. And that's where Everman comes in. And that's basically the plot line behind Everman. My Nebula character is an outer space thing. I'm not going to get into no deep thing. All of these guys are going to be talked. Their origin stories are all going to be talked about in depth, because these stories happened a while ago. So there's no reasons for me to hold back the origin stories. You'll witness them either in the pages of, or when those books come out, they'll have supplementals that will talk about the origin stories. That's how I plan on doing it. So this is how I think that you should have handled it. I think you should have went bigger, because this street level thing is boring to me. Even Batman doesn't deal with just street level crime. He does with some intricate shit. Court of Owls, Ra's al Ghul, all of these motherfuckers is big. They're not no street level shit. So he might go to street level to get information. He might rough up some street level thugs to get information, but that's not what you see Batman. That's not. So that's why I don't like this. That's why I didn't like it. It's just too small, chump change for the money that I spent. It's way too small. You should have Darren Fontano be a bigger, more iconic type of a character. Maybe he's trying to develop something so that he could get powers. Anything. I know these are typical tropes, but it's way better than this. It's way better than having nothing. I don't have anything with this story. That's all I can tell you. So, and you can see what I'm saying with my story. I got characters forever. I got thousands of characters, but I got at least 200 in the the Mike story line. Where's my book? I got this is not Mike. I got, here it is. This book. This is my Bible. I've taken over 200 names out of my Bible, and I put them in this Mike Bible. This is the Mike Bible with all of the rules and everything of this universe.